Okay, let's get situated. I'll wait for people to come in. Happy Friday. Have a super weird story today about Stephen Colbert, so I can't wait to read through that with you. Give it just a minute for people to come in. Thank you for joining. Woo, my nose itches. Hello, welcome. I'm letting people pop in. Hello, hello, how are you? Sorry, I have my nose itches. No one wants to see that. Hi, Braxton. Oh, I said my nose was itchy. Hello. Hello. I just started. I'm going to give it another minute. I'll let people arrested for what? So this is pretty crazy. I'm going to read through it with you. 7, was it 7? I think it was 7. Stephen Colbert, members of his staff on his late night show just got arrested for apparently breaching the Capitol. This is a brand new story, so I'm going to read through it with you. Hi. Hello. Yeah, this will be, I wanted to read it fresh with you, so I have no idea exactly what happened. Hi guys, thank you for joining. I'll go through that story in just a second. Hello. May 29th was worse than January 6th. I agree. If you guys don't know what happened, May 29th, 2020, that's when a bunch of Secret Service officers or Secret Service agents got attacked. They tried to, it was a huge mob that was rioting in Washington, D.C. They tried to breach the White House. Secret Service agents were injured. They had to put Trump in an underground bunker. And that's when they tried. What is the name of that church? Is it St. John's? St. John's. Okay, that's when they tried to set fire to St. John's Church, which is known as, I believe, the President's Church in Washington, D.C. And actually, it's really interesting. I went to stay there, and this was kind of what a slap in the face. They put, it was like BLM, it was Antifa, it was that whole crowd that was rioting and doing all this. They tried to set fire to the church. I believe there might have been there might have actually been a fire there. It didn't completely burn down. But they set fire to the church. And then after all of this happened, they actually put a huge, ginormous Black Lives Matter, flag basically on the side of the church. But they will conveniently not mention any of that when they talk about January 6th. Okay, so let's get to this story. I wanted to read through it with you. I was just seeing the headlines right before, and I read a little bit about it, but Stephen Colbert. Okay, so Fox confirms that a group of persons associated with the late show Stephen Colbert were arrested last night and charged with illegal entry to House office buildings after hours. Fox is told the people were arrested in the Longworth House office building. The group was in the Cannon House office building earlier in the day trying to get interviews around the time of the 1/6 committee hearing. However, USCP shooed them away because they did not have proper press credentials. However, the group surfaced later that night after the Capitol. Oh, I'm sorry. I should change the title. See, that's what happens when I read it, when I go through this with you. So they got arrested for breaching the Capitol, not for January 6th, but it was about the January 6th committee hearing. Okay, so it says, however, USCP shooed them away because they did not have their proper press credentials. However, the group surfaced later that night after the Capitol complex was closed to the public. Fox is told they took pictures and video around the offices of the House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy and Lauren Boebert. They were unescorted and arrested and charged with illegal entry. They were arrested near Boebert's office. They were released overnight. Fox has confirmed the arrest of these persons through a senior House source. Robert Smigel is known for being the voice of Triumph, the insult comic dog. What? He was one of the people arrested. So he's the voice of Triumph, the insult comic dog. He also produced short cartoons for Saturday Night Live's TV Funhouse. USCP have issued the following statement. On June 16th, 2022, at approximately 8:30 p.m., U.S. Capitol Police, that's USCP, received a call for a disturbance in the Longworth House office building. USCP responding officers observed 7 individuals unescorted without congressional IDs in a 6th-floor hallway. USCP, the building was closed to visitors. These individuals were determined to be a part of a group that had been directed by the police to leave the building earlier in the day. They were charged with unlawful entry. This is an active criminal investigation and may result in additional criminal charges after consultation with the U.S. Attorney. What? That is a very bizarre story. And what's really odd is they were around Kevin McCarthy's office and Lauren Boebert's office. If they were there to try to get interviews, why would they be there after hours? That is really bizarre. I'm trying to change the name of my live because I completely read that headline wrong. So they breached the Capitol last night. Everybody was involved with the fake insurrection. Everybody hated Trump that much. Literally, you know what's so funny? I was watching just like a man on the street type of interview where they were in Los Angeles and they were going around asking all of these people, just walking around, so are you watching the January 6th committee hearings? And literally everyone said, what? No? Why would that happened over a year ago? Why would I watch that? Literally nobody is paying attention to it. It was NBC that stopped midway and said, we're going to stop showing the January 6th committee hearings and we're going to show golf instead. They're literally showing golf instead of the January 6th hearings, which if anyone is a fan, hello, if anyone is a fan of golf, I do not mean to offend you, but I think we can all argue that it's one of the more, it's one of the slower sports to watch on television, if that makes any sense. I want to know, why were they in this bill? Okay, so that's what's really creepy. Okay, obviously we know they're leftists. They work for Stephen Colbert. There are 7 of them in the Capitol after hours at night around Lauren Boebert's office and Kevin McCarthy. Someone said, Fox is covering this more than the actual January 6th hearings. A person responded to that, which is probably one of the points they wanted to make. Guaranteed outcome, no charges. I just so happen to love playing golf. Yes, but... Oh, 9 staffers now. So one publication is saying it's 7 staffers. Another one is saying it's 9 staffers. 9 staffers tied to The Late Show with Stephen Colbert were arrested at the U.S. Capitol Thursday night for trespassing after hours. The group was in the Cannon House office building earlier in the day trying to get interviews around the time of the January 6th committee hearing. Very weird. I'm changing the title of my live because I don't want to. For breaching Capitol. I was waiting for Metallica. Real disappointment. I would much rather watch Metallica than the hearings. Very much so. And I did not mean to offend anyone that likes golf, but it is one of the slower sports to watch. Did the title just change? I just changed the title. That was my fault because I wanted to read the story with you. But I was wondering, I was like, how did they just get arrested? Hello? Ha ha ha. Good. I just went in and changed the title. I'm hard to offend. That means I have feelings. I don't get offended that easily either. I'm trying to see if there's any updated information on that. Why were they there? So are they going to, my question is, are they going to get solitary confinement? Because that seems to be the standard. Wow. On the 50th anniversary of Watergate break-in. Okay, you guys, there's so much to this story. Okay. On the 50th anniversary of Watergate's break-in, Representative Adam Schiff's cronies sneak in Stephen Colbert staffers and provide unauthorized tours of Republican offices throughout Capitol Hill. What? You guys. Okay, can I play this? Hold on, I want to play this, but I don't think it'll play. Okay, so... This is unbelievable. And... Someone said, filming scenes to provide to the January 6th committee hearing. Oh, here we go. Okay. This is from Fox News. I'm gonna play it. So we'll listen to the audio and then I'll stop because I can't play the whole thing. I have to do it. They're mocking the truth. Yeah. So I'm gonna stop and play it for you. They're talking about this now on Fox News, so maybe we'll get more information.
Fox News alert breaking right now. Word of a major breach of security on Capitol Hill. At least 7 people who work for the comedian Stephen Colbert were arrested and jailed last night for breaching the Capitol building. Here's what we know right now. Capitol Police were called around 8:30 p.m. Thursday night for a disturbance at the Longworth House office building. These individuals, who we've confirmed work for The Late Show, were seen roaming the building while it was closed to visitors. Capitol Police say they did not have congressional IDs and were not authorized to be walking around without an escort. They were booked and they spent the night in jail. Congressional sources tell us they were filming a skit on the January 6th hearings and were banging on the doors of offices, people like Congressman.
Okay, so they were filming a skit about the January 6th, about the hearings or about what happened. Now it's starting to make sense. But even still, that, in my opinion, is a breach. It doesn't matter why you were there. You were just there, right? There are people from J6. There are people who broke stuff down and entered, and they shouldn't have done that. But there were also a lot of people who had no idea what was going on and just kind of walked in and thought that people were allowed to be in. So is it going to be the same standard for both? Because there were people, and it's on video, that were let in by security.
McCarthy, Jim Jordan, Republicans, you know the deal. One of the individuals, Robert Smigel, was pictured when he was in the Capitol yesterday. Smigel's a comedian who's appeared on the Colbert Show several times, as you can see here. The name of the others who were on Capitol Hill from the show are Jake Plunkett, Allison Martinez, Tyrone Dean, Stephen Romand, Nicoletta Green, Brendan Hurley, Josh Comers, and David Feldman. I want to point out these were not low-level people working for Colbert. We can confirm that Jake Plunkett is a senior producer and director at the show. Josh Comers is a writer. Allison Martinez is an associate producer. Who let them in the Capitol without authorization? Well, according to a congressional source, it was the Democrats. Congress.
So are they all insurrectionists now? Is that what we're doing?
Adam Schiff and Jake Auchincloss. Congressman Rodney Davis sits on the Committee of House Administration and oversees Capitol Police.
Wow, okay, we're going to listen to him in just a second. Somebody put a really funny meme up. It says 1/6/21. Never forget. It's time to hold tourists accountable. Tourism is the leading cause of the cuckoo caucus. There was a big dude that was crying in the hearing. I don't know. Well, you know, a great point that was actually brought up. We listened to it the other day. It was brought up. It was it MSNBC? It was brought up on one of the liberal news outlets. And what was brought up was, you know, what they're not saying is there's no way Trump could have incited what happened that day with his speech, because they'll keep playing that one part of Trump's speech over and over and over again. The part they won't play is when he said march peacefully to the Capitol. They'll just play, you know, whatever they possibly can to make it look worse than what it was. But even if what they're not saying is, if you look at the timeline, it doesn't add up. The people that breached the Capitol were not even anywhere near Trump when he was giving his speech, and his speech was still going on when the Capitol was breached. They couldn't hear him. They were nowhere near him. So this whole argument is that Trump's speech incited what happened is absolutely false. But that's one of the things that they won't talk about in the committee hearings. They also won't show the 10,000 hours of surveillance footage. They won't talk about who Ray Epps is. There actually are things that they could investigate, but that's not what they're doing. It's a dog and pony show, and I was listening to Steve Turley earlier today. He called it like a big burlesque show. It's just a distraction, but most people do not care about. That was a year and a half ago. There's bigger fish to fry at the moment, I think, and that's people's grocery bill. That's the gas prices. That's all these other things, like middle class, lower middle class. A lot of people are really suffering right now. And think about it too. Something I don't think about often, but is we should think about people that are retired, elderly people that are on a fixed income. If you're on a fixed income, this really affects you, and it affects your savings and your retirement, all of these things. And people, the fact that they're putting this show on only makes them look even more out of touch with the public than they already are. But let's listen to what this guy says. So this is a guy from the Capitol. This is still Jesse Waters. He's in charge of security. He oversees security at the Capitol.
Congressman, is there an official investigation of this taking place right now?
Well, this is so new, Jesse. We just found out about the arrest today, and I'm going to make sure that when we get back to Washington next week, we're going to ask the questions that need to be asked. We'll ask the security officials why these arrests had to be made. What were they doing without an escort at a time when, the January 6th Select Committee on the 50th anniversary of Watergate made it look like my colleague Barry Loudermilk somehow took kids with gift bags to do reconnaissance missions. And let me put it to you this way too, Jesse. The only people arrested by Capitol Police for touring the House office buildings are the people who work for Stephen Colbert.
Yeah, it's ironic, isn't it? And we've reached out to the Capitol Police, and they've confirmed this with us. They said it's an ongoing criminal investigation, and U.S. attorneys are involved. They are charged with unlawful entry, which, if I'm not mistaken, that is the exact same charge as many of the January 6th protesters were charged with. Is that right?
Yeah, it certainly seems to be, Jesse.
Okay, so they're being charged with the exact same thing as the people that were there on January 6th.
So what happens with Adam Schiff now and this other congressman, Auchincloss? Are they complicit
Auchincloss
in this breach of Capitol Hill security?
That's why we've got to get more information. That's why we need an investigation. We need to make sure that we understand who in their offices brought these individuals in. It's my understanding that these individuals were brought in by someone associated with Adam Schiff's office. They were over in the Capitol building or the Cannon building trying to be around where the credentialed media were supposed to be stationed in the midst of the January 6th hearing yesterday. The credentialed media were the ones I'm hearing that had them escorted out the first time yesterday. And then they came back. And it's my understanding they were offered a way back into the House office buildings by a staffer who worked for the other member of Congress. Then they were actually seen banging on the doors of people like Kevin McCarthy's office, Jim Jordan's office. What were they doing? Why were they there? And frankly, I'm interested in asking the Capitol Police, what did they do to make sure they got arrested? And what's going to be the final adjudication?
So they were around the building. They were banging on the doors. How is that any different than what happened on January 6th? Because they were doing a skit?
Well, that's an important question. We might have to have hearings. We might have to have our own committee to investigate this sort of CBS News breach of the...
I would watch those hearings. If they put a little committee together and did some hearings, I would watch that.
Obviously, they were way too aggressive, banging on doors, intimidating people. I mean, we don't condone that type of conduct, do we, Congressman? Stephen Colbert, I guess he says he's a comedian, but this sounds like more hijinks and like he was maybe planning something. Was this maybe even a conspiracy?
Well, we'll have to find out. But it's just so ironic that the 1-6 Select Committee, that's just a political circus, they're imputing my colleague, Mr. Loudermilk, for taking people on a tour of the House office buildings who were there on January 5th. They wanted to see their member of Congress. They ate lunch at the Longwood cafeteria, went to the gift shop, but they made it seem like somehow those individuals that included children were part of those who broke the law the next day. That's clearly not the case. No one was arrested, and no one's been accused of doing so. However, It's ironic that Democratic staffers, not even members of Congress, Democratic staffers who work for Adam Schiff and others, they're the ones who brought people in that ended up getting arrested by Capitol Police. That's saying something.
Do you expect Adam Schiff to
Someone said he was trying to get the ABC ratings overturned. I do. I think it was a conspiracy. He was trying to overturn the ratings, and they planned this.
to this? Because I know him probably just as well as you do. The guy's a dishonest actor. He lied throughout the Russia investigation, and we know what he lied about during the Ukraine impeachment situation. I don't see him taking any responsibility for this. Do you?
Well, my colleague, Mr. Schiff, hasn't taken any responsibility for the Russia hoax, and he should. He repeated lie after lie after lie that cost taxpayers hundreds of millions of dollars. That's why arrests like this need to be publicized, and people need to be held accountable for these decisions, so that we start to see that there's not two tiers of justice. The justice doesn't have a red shirt or a blue shirt on.
They should be held to the exact same standard that everyone that was actually there on the 6th of January in 2021. They should all be held to the same exact standard, if that's the standard.
So Colbert producers breached the Capitol, were arrested, and Adam Schiff was complicit. And that's what we have tonight on Jesse Waters Primetime. It's
Well. That was interesting. Trying to see if there's any updates. I don't see any updates right now. Nope, I don't see anything. Well, okay then. Someone was asking about a storm. You're in Virginia Beach. Actually, it was really crazy. We had an insane storm that lasted about 5 minutes. It, out of nowhere, it got really rainy, insanely windy, to the point where I thought there was a tornado outside my window. It got really windy. It was raining intensely for maybe about 5 minutes, and then it stopped. And that was all we had. It looked like it was going to storm all day, but that happened around 6:30, and that was it. Okay, well, that was a pretty crazy story. Oh. Jesse Waters just aired a report that a crew with Stephen Colbert were arrested last night at the Capitol and charged with unlawful entry. 2 members were mentioned as allowing them into the building, including House Intelligence Chair Adam Schiff. Rep. Rodney Davis seemed to confirm the basic facts in the segment. While much still have to be confirmed on the details, the charge would be the same as most of those who were arrested in connection with the January 6th riot. The segment suggested that they were banging on doors as a part of a skit with a comedian who has appeared on the show. Obviously, while the charges may be the same, this is very different from breaking into the Capitol rioting. If true, the crew would claim implied permission, even if there should have been approval for the access and shooting. The responsible member could ease the situation by saying that it was a failure on the part of the office to get formal approval or notice for the shooting. It might still mean a breach of security protocol, but the House ultimately controls access in such areas. Once again, this is just an initial report. However, if there is a charge, it would likely be brought under, it's a section with numbers, for anyone who knowingly enters or remains any restricted building or grounds without lawful authority to do so. That notably includes the crimes of remaining in the building, though the crew could argue that they had lawful authority from one of these members. The Washington Examiner is reporting a statement on June 16th, 2022 at approximately 8:30 p.m. A U.S. Capitol Police received a call for a disturbance in the Longworth House office building. Well, here's the thing. A lot of people on actual January 6th were also let in by security guards. We have, there are some people that broke in, but there are some people that really didn't have any idea what was going on, and they kind of just wandered in. And there's footage of security guards allowing people to enter the building. So you could almost, you could use this same argument for that as well. They were let in by security. They didn't know what was going on. Hannity is talking about it. Here's Tucker is talking about it too. Well, let's listen to Tucker. I love Tucker. He gives no tucks. Hold on, it's loading. What time is it? Did Tucker already air? Yes, he did.
Last night, producers for Stephen Colbert's show on CBS. This is almost beyond belief, but just before this show aired, we learned that last night, producers for Stephen Colbert's show on CBS committed insurrection at the United States Capitol. Adam Schiff, the congressman from California, who has spent the last year and a half telling you that unauthorized violations of Capitol space are a coup, Adam Schiff illegally gave producers from CBS access to the Capitol. And then the group, which includes the show's senior producer, a director, a comedian, and a writer, remained in the Longworth House office building after hours. And the point of them being there was for them to harass sitting members of Congress. Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert. U.S. Capitol Police say they got a call about a disturbance at about 8:30 p.m. They told us, quote, responding officers observed 7 individuals unescorted and without congressional ID in a 6th-floor hallway. Officers then arrested them and charged them with unlawful entry into the Capitol complex. Now, that's the exact same charge that many January 6th defendants face. We'll just get right to it. It is likely that some members of Stephen Colbert's team will be held in solitary confinement for a year and a half without being charged. Why? Because this is an insurrection. And actually, joking aside, how could they not be held for a year and a half in solitary confinement without being charged? Because the precedent is in place. And how in the world can Adam Schiff, again, who spent the last year and a half eliminating the civil liberties of Trump voters on the basis of January 6th, do the exact same thing and not face punishment? We're going to tell jokes about, oh, it's like Pearl Harbor. No, it's exactly like what happened on January 6th. So we'll take a close look at what the punishments are. Liz Cheney, call your office. You've got another committee to impanel. Adam Kinzinger's crying at the thought. We'll stay on the story.
Yeah, I wonder how fast Liz Cheney's going to get on that. Oh, yes, I did start, well, now 33 minutes ago. I mean, that's quite inconvenient for them, if you really think about it. Like, how funny. You're trying to get everyone to take these committee hearings seriously, and then this happens. It's quite funny. It's poetic. It's poetic, really. It's poetic. It's poetry. Someone says if they aren't charged criminally the same as J6 defendants, then more evidence of selective prosecution arises. Judges can only rig stuff so much before the judiciary loses all legitimacy. Throw the book at these trespassers. That's a really good point. This is actually probably one of the worst things that could have happened for these committee hearings. People are already not taking them seriously. Anyway. And it was compared to Watergate. Well, yeah, this is on Watergate's anniversary, too. Well, look at that. And speaking of crazies, I don't think I've talked about this, but this is, you know, we keep getting told, like, that it's the old MAGA that you need to be afraid of. It's these, you know, these far-right extremists who are the dangerous ones, and it's the MAGA party that you need to be afraid of. Oh my gosh, they're so scary. Yet where does almost all of the violence come from? It comes from far leftists. And when you really think about what's going on here, so the FBI is investigating more than 20 pregnancy resource centers and offices of pro-life groups have been attacked or vandalized since the leak of the draft of the Supreme Court opinion, indicating that the justices are likely to overturn R versus W. The militant abortion group Jane's Revenge has claimed responsibility for a slew of these attacks, and this week allegedly issued a radical missive promising to continue violent attacks on pro-life clinics and organizations. Okay, so this is how you know they're not pro-choice. This is not the actions of a pro-choice group, because a choice means that a woman has a choice. They're attacking pregnancy centers. So they're attacking centers where women who are pregnant and low income go to get resources. That's what they're attacking. This should tell you everything you need to know about this group. They are in fact not pro-choice. They are pro-abortion. That's what they are. And they don't care about young mothers who choose to have their children. These could have been young mothers that never even considered having an abortion. That's what they're attacking. So just keep that in your mind. That's what they're attacking. In response to inquiries regarding the alleged Jane's Revenge I don't know what that says. COMMUNIQUE. Is that like communist slang, or do I just not know what this word is? The FBI said Thursday evening that while it would not comment on specific groups, the Bureau is investigating a series of attacks and threats targeting pregnancy resource centers and faith-based organizations across the country. The FBI takes all threats seriously, and we continue to work closely with our law enforcement partners and will remain vigilant to protect our communities. We would like to remind members of the public that if they observe anything suspicious or have information about potential threats, to report it to law enforcement immediately, call their local FBI field office, or submit a tip to tips.fbi.gov. In their purported Jane's Revenge missive posted by Abolition Media. Wow, isn't that funny? These groups, these groups, they want to abolish everything. Abolition Media, how cute. The abortion activists promise that they are not one group, but many. The message claimed responsibility for attacks on pro-life organizations and groups in Madison, Wisconsin, Fort Collins, Colorado, Massachusetts, Washington, Des Moines, Iowa, Linwood, Washington, Washington, D.C., Asheville, North Carolina, Buffalo, New York, Hollywood, Florida, Vancouver. Geez, the list continues. We work in countless locations invisibly. You've read the... What is this word? Communique. That sounds funny. Communique. Okay. We work in countless locations invisibly, the communique said. That's what they call themselves. What's the definition of that? You've read the communiques from various cells. You've seen the proliferating messages in graffiti and elsewhere, and you know we are serious. It's French. We promise to take increasingly drastic measures against oppressive infrastructures. These people are such unbelievable hypocrites. They're fighting against oppressive infrastructures, yet they are attacking organizations that give low-income pregnant women resources. Rest assured that we will, and those measures may not come in the form of something so easily cleaned up as fire and graffiti. Any pro-life group that closes its doors and stops operating will not be a target of the wrath of James' revenge, the message said, but the group issued a message to those who continue to provide services to pregnant women in need. It's open season, and we know where your operations are. Wow, you are just, what a great person you are, attacking centers that offer low-income pregnant women resources. Wow, you're really doing a great thing for society, aren't you? The infrastructure of the enslavers will not survive. We will never stop, back down, slow down, or retreat. We did not want this, but it is upon us, and we must deal with it proportionally. The alleged Jane's Revenge message claimed that the group finds joy and courage through attacking pro-lifers. They're just insufferable. For the allies of ours who doubt the authenticity of the communiques and actions, there is a way you can get irrefutable. I can't talk tonight. There's a way you can get proof. Pro-lifers are enslavers. But really, they're not even just talking about pro-lifers. They're talking about centers that give resources to women. That's really what they're talking about here. Proof that these actions are real. Go do one of your own. You are already one of us. Everyone with the urge to paint, to burn, to cut, to jam. Now is the time. Go forth and manifest the things you wish to see. Stay safe and practice your cursive. Senator Ted Cruz said on Fox News on Wednesday evening that the missive threatened terrorist conduct. They're threatening to attack, to burn, to murder people, the senator said, noting that the pro-life centers exist to help expectant mothers to give birth to those children. And Senator Ben Sasse demanded that President Joe Biden personally and forcibly denounce the left's intimidation campaign and make it absolutely clear that there's no place in America for political violence. No more mealy-mouthed statements. The Attorney General needs to enforce the law before someone gets killed. The Supreme Court must be allowed to do its job, and pregnancy care centers must be allowed to operate without fear of threats, firebombs, or vandalism. Biden has not personally condemned the violence against pro-life organizations or news that a man traveled across the country intending to kill Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh, though the administration has issued a slew of statements on those topics. On Friday, the FBI had warned that while it will protect the First Amendment rights of Americans protesting at the Supreme Court, it will not tolerate violence, destruction, interference with government functions. Here's the thing, though. First of all, it is a federal crime to protest in front of a Supreme Court justice's home, and they're not enforcing that. They're saying, well, we're monitoring the situation. The other day, I was reading an article about the neighbors of Kavanaugh have said that it's very scary. They feel intimidated. They can't put their kids to bed because it's so loud at night, and they purposefully come out at night. And stuff like that, when you allow it to go on and you allow it to go on, it has nowhere to go but to escalate. You're allowed to peacefully protest, but not in front of a Supreme Court justice's home or in a residential area after hours, especially. And this was what was so frustrating all of Portland, because they just let it happen. They would arrest the people and then they would be out the next day. If you really wanted to stop this, it would be so easy to stop these things, because it's usually just a few people that are doing most of it, and they could squash it so easily. But they let it go and they let it go and they let it go, and it has nowhere to go but to escalate. And they keep saying that the violence is coming from the right. The violence is coming from the right. And I'm very sure that is true. But where does the majority of it come from? And at least the one thing that I can say about the right is if anyone ever did anything violent in the name of right-wing politics, every single conservative commentator that I follow would condemn it immediately. But what the left does is they don't condemn violence that comes from their side. Every single conservative commentator that I follow and every single person in Washington, D.C., every Republican condemned the people that did bad things on January 6th. But several things can be true at once, right? There can be people that did bad things. They were bad faith actors. They were opportunists. But there are also people that went in that didn't know what was going on, that were let in. There were grannies just walking around, like, taking pictures. But the right condemned the people who were bad actors. The left doesn't do that. They don't condemn the bad actors, they justify it. Remember Chris Cuomo? Who said protesting has to be peaceful? Remember Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez? Protesting should make people uncomfortable. Kamala Harris retweeted a bail fund to get the people out of jail, and they're even doing it today. You know, they will condemn the draft itself, the draft that got leaked, but they won't condemn the leak. They won't condemn the people that are protesting outside of Kavanaugh's home. They won't condemn the violence. In a joint statement issued Friday by U.S. Attorney Matthew Graves and Assistant Director in charge of the FBI Washington Field Office, Stephen D'Antano, authorities said that they are committed to protecting the First Amendment rights of all Americans to express their views peacefully during demonstrations that take place on a regular basis in the nation's capital, including at the Supreme Court. We also have a responsibility to ensure public safety and the orderly conduct of government business. We will not tolerate violence, destruction, interference with government functions, or trespassing on government property. Authorities also said they're committed to working closely with our local, state, federal law enforcement partners to stop any individuals who intend to commit violence or criminal activity under the guise of carrying out a demonstration. One of the reasons, the reason that it's illegal to picket outside of a Supreme Court justice's house is that can be seen as an intimidation technique to alter a judgment. Jeez. It's a scary world out there. Ow. God is good. Okay, this is pretty crazy. You might have heard about this. Hello, fake news alert. USA Today deletes 23 stories after reporter fabricated sources. USA Today gets lost in the race for the most embarrassing outlet in the country, while not as notably corrupt as NBC News or as openly devious as the Washington Post. USA Today is nonetheless not a credible publication. It's funny, but it's not funny. I have to laugh at it at this point. Case in point, a news story that uncovered that the outlet is deleting articles on its website because it published a series of lies. According to the New York Times, another beauty. I'm reading this from Outkick. They're really funny. USA Today deleted 23 articles following an investigation that found reporter who wrote them used fabricated sources. Oh. It's 100 out of 100 on NewsGuard? That's bad. USA Today confirms that Gabriela Miranda is the journalist in question and that she resigned from the outlet a few weeks ago. Miranda is what you call a fake news reporter. Well, she should go work for, well, maybe not CNN, because CNN, they're trying to clean up their act. I don't think they would hire her. Maybe she can go work for MSNBC now. The New York Post reached out to Miranda to ask why she faked her sources, but instead of responding, she deleted her LinkedIn account. Luckily, CNN does not require future employees to have an active LinkedIn account. After receiving an external correction request, USA Today audited the reporting work of Gabriela Miranda. Okay, this is what's concerning. It's good that they caught it, but it was after an external audit. So someone was like, hey guys, you need to clean this up. And then they were trying to cover their tracks. But think about it. How many people work at these publications who fake? We know Taylor Lorenz does it. Taylor Lorenz basically lied in one of her stories. She works for the Washington Post. What's the Washington Post on NewsGuard? I would be curious to know. Taylor Lorenz has had to have several corrections to several of her stories. The first one, she tried to do a hit piece on libs of TikTok and doxed libs of TikTok. And the second story that was recent about Taylor Lorenz, journalist at the Washington Post, was that she was writing about online content creators, said in her article that she reached out to them and they declined to respond. They came out and they were like, no, she never reached out to any of us. So she just straight up lied in her article, and now this happened. How many, they say if you see a rat or you see like a cockroach, there's 100 more that you don't see. And a lot of them, they'll quietly fix things. Like the Washington Post, they just sort of stealth edited Taylor Lorenz, both of those stories, they stealth edited, which means they went back and they just kind of erased it and redid it, or took out the naughty parts, instead of doing what you're supposed to be doing, and that is updating your story and saying what you got wrong and how you fixed it. They don't do that. This is so funny. Okay, it's not funny, but you know what I'm saying. So after receiving an external correction request, USA Today audited the reporting work of Gabriela Miranda. The audit revealed that some individuals quoted were not affiliated with the organizations claimed and appeared to be fabricated. The existence of other individuals quoted could not be independently verified. In addition, some stories included quotes that should have been credited to others. This is what is so wrong. If you're just a normie out there, not someone who's like super into the news like we are, but if you're just a normie and you're seeing that USA Today 100 out of 100 on NewsGuard, they're a major publication, and you're reading something in there and they're quoting someone. Let's say that was Trump and they quoted him in there and it wasn't his quote, and now he said this, and that's your truth. You expect it to be true. This is a major publication. The existence of other individuals quoted could not be independently verified. In addition, some stories included quotes that should have been credited to others. Moreover, the report found that Miranda meddled in the investigation into her conduct. Per the Times, Miss Miranda took steps to deceive investigators by producing false evidence of her news gathering, including recordings of interviews one of the people said. Oh my goodness gracious. Miranda would seem like a black eye for the industry. She's dishonest and does not quote her subjects accurately. However, you can't convince me there are not pages of other journalists doing the same as she was. Oh, I guarantee it. Lying and doctoring quotes are not novel practices in the corporate press. Have you ever read MSNBC.com? As bad as Miranda sounds, she can't be worse than Taylor Lorenz, can she? Oh, I bet that's a great article. This is another article on Outkick. Maybe we should look at that one too. Taylor Lorenz personifies the state of the corporate press. USA Today says it will reinforce its standards with its staff, whatever those are. All in, USA Today is the 6th most dishonest news organization going. Official ranking, number 1, Washington Post. Number 2, NBC News. Number 3, ESPN. Number 4, CNN. Number 5, New York Times. Number 6, USA Today. Hold on. Taylor and thus why nobody trusts the mainstream media. Oh, she could. Yeah, the USA Today lady, she does have a future. It's not over for her. Taylor Lorenz personifies the state of the corporate press. Taylor Lorenz, a character whom the Washington Post labels a journalist, personifies the state of the corporate press. She embodies the decline in credibility and trust with the audience. This is very true. Lorenz is they go hard. Okay, excuse me. Lorenz is a talentless, unethical, motivated by hate, and utterly indifferent to the truth. But most importantly, she's useful to those in power. This is exactly true. So much of our corporate media, you're supposed to speak truth to power, but so much of our corporate media now, they protect the status quo, protect the power, and that's their job. That's why Taylor Lorenz can keep her job, because she does what they want her to do. They want her to call out and bully the little guy. And that's what she does. She went after libs of TikTok, YouTubers, independent creators is what she goes after. Lorenz and her fellow media types consider the facts only optional. Journalists now work backward. They pick a target to smear, and then they look for evidence to support their thesis through anonymous sources and speculation. Oh my gosh, I couldn't agree more. They work backwards. They have their target in mind, and then they work backwards trying to find any evidence that will fit their narrative. Smear merchants, which is what they are, send facts to reach their preferred conclusion. Their minds are made up before they do an ounce of original reporting. Yes. Last week, Lorenz targeted 2 YouTube accounts that grew their brands by covering the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial. The point of the story was to accuse the influencers of doctoring the facts in favor of Depp to gain traction. Lorenz was so eager to destroy the reputations of those creators that she settled for a series of blatant lies to strengthen her argument. So these are the 2 creators that actually called her out. The Post eventually had to add several lengthy corrections to her so-called report, as well as an editor's note at the bottom. And even with those, the story is still riddled with falsehoods. Lorenz claims her errors, including the assertion that she personally contacted the subjects of her story, fall on her editors. Lorenz is a victim of bad faith, she says, a bad faith campaign. Lorenz is no different than the perma victim Joy Reid of MSNBC. Reid still has not admitted that she posted homophobic and racist messages on her blog. Remember the hackers that did that to her? She's still a victim. Aren't we all? Corporate media staffers have no accountability because they put themselves on a pedestal well above their audience. In their mind, they cannot be hypocrites as they are not like us. They are our superiors and therefore should not be held to our standards. A group this self-important has developed a deep disdain for those they believe are below them, so they have no problem lying to the public that they hold in such low regard. As Tucker Carlson told me in 2021, the primary objective in the media is to suck up to those in power and hurt those beneath them. I can't think of anything more dishonorable than that, Carlson concluded. To understand the classism of the press, consider that it is a collection of self-obsessed, status-driven fanatics. Their entire media industry is self-gratifying. I'm really liking the way that this person writes. You see my Italian hands? These narcissists don't incessantly screech about Donald Trump and the white supremacy on principle. They do so for their own circles, to show that they belong. Corporate brands similarly pretend to support the gay pride flag to signal where they stand on the cultural divide. Hit pieces and puff profiles are not targeted at the audience at large, but at specific members of the cream of society. Press members are the gatekeepers of their progressive rulers. Lorenz proved this when she set out to destroy the woman behind the popular Libs of TikTok account earlier this year. Libs of TikTok merely repost videos the left makes of themselves, essentially holding a mirror in front of their faces. And that is the threat. Liberals do not want their beliefs to be the focus of the conversation because then they can no longer by showing the world who they are. Libs of TikTok has taken away much of their power. And that was what was so telling about Lorenz's piece on Libs of TikTok, because the interesting angle, if you were going to write about Libs of TikTok, would be, how is this Twitter account so influential? How did it blow up so quickly, and why are people interested in this? That would have been an interesting piece that Lorenz could have written, but that's not what she did. What they described earlier, she already had her target in mind. She wanted to go after and do a hit piece. So what she needed to do, that was already her target before she even started on the story. That was it right there. So she needed to work backwards and find any kind of dirt or any kind of information that could be twisted to hit her target. instead of letting the truth unfold and finding out the truth herself, or actually taking an interesting angle on Libs of TikTok, the Twitter account. That's not what she did. She intended to do a hit piece and then had to work back from there. Lorenz wanted to show fellow social justice warriors that she could take out this agitating disruptor who said Taylor Lorenz wasn't a team player. Disparaging the non-believers of the progressive movement is a religion to these devoted media tools. They believe that some greater power, but obviously not God, put them on this planet to keep the rest of us in line. Lorenz is so immersed in the cause that she had no issue about showing up at the home of Libs of TikTok's relatives. Lorenz's devotion to the cause blinds her to her own creepy behavior. Elitist media types have minimal interaction with the outside world or the working class, about and to whom they preach. To them, the manufactured society on Twitter is reality, and in that world, they are the purveyors of truth. Twitter followings and reactions drive the worldview of journalists and television anchors. They live in a reality in which only outrage and victimhood prevail. The result of this is an industry completely detached from the rest of the country. Thus, the term mainstream media is no longer accurate. The corporate press is far from mainstream. And this is why you see the popularity of YouTubers, of content creators, of all of these independent people, of Libs of TikTok. This is why you see their popularity rising, because they actually understand the mainstream. They understand their audience. Someone like Taylor Lorenz is so detached from mainstream and from working class people or from the masses. And that's why that is one reason why they have no credibility. They don't speak to the mainstream anymore. They are not the mainstream. Readers and viewers now hate the press as much as the press has long hated them. The audience now openly rebels against the media. When Lorenz ambushed Libs of TikTok, the account's Twitter following grew to over 1 million. Meanwhile, Lorenz made herself the butt of memes and ridicule. The smear attempt did not go as planned. Newsrooms are filled with these miserable posers who are ready to wave their keyboards. Bringing someone else down gives them a purpose, a sense of satisfaction. And no person, no matter how private or inconsequential, is off limits. In 2020, former Trump aide Kellyanne Conway says Lorenz I remember this story. Okay. In 2020, former Trump aide Kellyanne Conway says Lorenz pretended to befriend her 15-year-old daughter so that she could gain access to her anti-Trump TikTok posts. Lorenz exploited a minor's social media page to sow negative press toward her mother, a White House staffer. Her journalism is so loathsome that it's almost remarkable. Working in media used to require intelligence, courage, and curiosity. Today it requires allegiance, bullying, and distortion. Aspiring journalists, do you have what it takes to be the next Taylor Lorenz? If so, you best give up any sense of morality or integrity immediately. Because Lorenz's vile behavior and incompetence are indicative of the state of the corporate press today. No wonder the entire industry is catering and grasping for air. Ha! This actually reminds me, I was surprised, this was on CNN. It's the same with elitist Democrats. Hopefully this will play. I couldn't believe this was on. Okay, so we're shifting a little bit, but this is the same, basically the same thing. How, Democrats used to be for the working class, but now they are so far removed from what normal people do. And it was actually Van Jones on CNN who correctly called out Democrats. I want you to hear what he says. Again, I was shocked that this was on CNN, but he's sitting on a panel with two other people, two other CNN anchors, and literally leaves them speechless.
Becoming a party of the very high and the very low. If you pull out the working class, you've got people who are very well educated and very well off. Those people talk funny. Latinx, I've never met a Latinx. I've never met a BIPOC. I've never met, all this weird stuff that these highly educated people say is bizarre. Nobody talks that way at the barbershop, the nail salon, the grocery store, the community center. But that's how we talk now. So that's weird. And then the people who are very low down on the economic ladder need a bunch of stuff. You wind up over-promising, oh, we're going to give you reparations to people at the bottom of the economic ladder, talking weird to appeal to people at the top of the economic ladder, and working class walks away from you. That is the danger we're facing.
He's so right. So the Democratic Party has become the party of the very high and the very low. I actually could not have said that better myself. And someone in the comments said that CNN is sucking up to their new bosses, which might be true, but I really think he was being sincere when he said that. Someone also commented on this. Democrat allied media now turning on Democrats because it knows the left will be crushed in November. That could be, but I felt like he was actually being sincere, and he's correct. They're the party of the very high up and the very low down. They overpromise people that are very poor, like what he said, we're going to give you reparations, we're going to pay for this, we're going to pay for that, we're going to give you stimulus checks, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, so that they need to vote for them to get those things. They cater to the very high up, the intelligentsia, the people that, went to, the people that got a degree in non-binary dance theory. They cater to those people. Those are the people that use terms like Latinx and BIPOC that nobody else uses. And he's right. When you go to the grocery store, the nail salon, the barber shop, the community center, wherever you go, nobody uses those weird terms. Latinx and BIPOC. And when you hear those, it's when your leaders are speaking like that, again, you're not speaking to the mainstream. Just like Taylor Lorenz and her journalist friends, you are not talking to the mainstream anymore. And the people that are leaving are the working class. Those are the people that Democrats have left behind. And they used to be the party for the working class. Yep, and Black Americans don't like people of color either. It's icky. It's just, call me what I am. I'm not a menstruator. I'm not... Someone says, Van Jones has always struck me as a realist, liberal to be sure, but he understands and relates in a real way. Yeah, I really think he was being sincere. And it's interesting because it's interesting that he actually used the term Latinx because I don't know if you guys remember, but AOC did a live stream on her Instagram recently. This is within the past month. And she was mad at her Democrat colleagues because they weren't adopting the term Latinx. And she was upset about that. The reason AOC, I'm sorry, she's a dum-dum. She's just a big dum-dum. And the reason that her colleagues probably don't want to adopt that word, one, because it's a weird and bizarre word, but two, they know that most people don't talk like that. And when you talk like that, you sound out of touch. They know it's not a popular thing to say. And AOC they're not progressive enough because they're not adopting the term Latinx. No, you're the weirdo, AOC. You're the one that's out of touch. And I think about that every time I go out, whether it's the gas station, the grocery store, out to eat, like anywhere I go. Most people are nice. Everybody gets along. Nobody talks this way. You want to know something? The only place that I see people talk this way, like announcing what their pronouns are, is Starbucks. The people that work at Starbucks. I don't know why. I was just thinking about that the other day. I was sitting there at Starbucks, and all the people that work there are really nice. But they're very, anyway, I was sitting there at Starbucks. I was on my computer doing some work, and the manager was sitting next to me, and he was filling out new hire paperwork. So it was a manager and a girl. She was a new hire, and he's filling out her paper. You know, the paperwork you fill out on your first day at work or whatever. And after they were finished doing the paperwork, he brought over another employee, and that was the employee that was going to be training the new hire. So the employee was introducing herself, and she said, "Hi, I'm so and so. My pronouns are they, them. What are your pronouns?" Oh no, my pronouns are she, they. What are yours? And the girl was like, she, her. That is the only place I hear people talk the way that all the leftists on the internet talk is Starbucks. And probably if I were to go downtown and be around VCU, it's a very liberal university, I would probably hear it there. But everywhere else where there are real people with real jobs, with real problems, with families, with friends, with hobbies, with purpose, they do not talk like that. D's nuts, 2 other pronouns. That was honestly, I felt like it was the first time I had heard. It was just weird to hear that, to see it in its natural habitat. The only other time I had heard this was a long time ago. I was living in West Hollywood, and I was working part-time at a bar. And the bar and in the bar that I worked at, well, I worked in the restaurant, so I worked at the restaurant level, but they had a they called it the attic. It was a room upstairs, and you could book it. There was like a little bar up there and a dance floor and a little stage, and they would have like comedy shows. You could book it for private events. Well, every third Wednesday of the month, they would have a swingers party. It was a bunch of swingers that would go up there, and they would mingle, and I guess they would like go home together, and I don't know what they would do. I don't want to know what they do. But anyway, there were rules that they would post by the door. And one of the rules was don't assume anyone's gender. That was one of the rules at the swingers meet. It was a meetup, the swingers meetup. They were not very attractive people, I will say that. I would always, my coworkers and I, we would watch the people that would come in and go, and it was kind of sad. You would see some people come by themselves and then leave by themselves. Life. I want to know more information about Stephen Colbert. No more information. It was horrible. Thankfully, I didn't have to work up there. I worked on the restaurant level, but you know, you enter through the restaurant so you could see who came in and who went upstairs. Ah. Did I talk about Fauci yesterday? No, I know he got COVID. I'm not surprised. Swing, sway, swing. It was really an interesting crowd that showed up. Yes, I do know that Fauci has the COVID. I'm not surprised. I don't believe anything that comes out of his mouth. I actually had someone who I see regularly who is vaccinated and boosted, got COVID, lived in a household with 2 other people. Neither one of the 2 people got it. Oh, someone said, Sarah, did you see the poll where I think you said 24% were only 24% of people that are Latino? Was it that even like to be called Latinx? Oh, the night before he was to appear in front of a congressional hearing. I sometimes I wonder about that. I'm wondering if the timing of which people come down. It's like when you're a woman. Like if you're a woman, you could, like in high school. I don't think adult women do this, but that excuse, the menstruating excuse, will get you out of anything. Like that's something that no one will. If you're a woman and you use that excuse, no one will say anything to you, especially a guy. They're just like, yeah, just do whatever you need to do. You go do that. I feel like some people use that now with, we'll call it the virus. I feel like people use that with the virus. It's that one thing that you can say to people, oh, I tested positive, and they're like, oh, you need to stay home. You need to get out of here. You go stay home for 5 days or 10 days or however long it is now. So sometimes I do wonder if people come down with the virus at very convenient times. I got out of helping someone move because I had a slight cough. See? And no one will argue with you. No one will argue with you. You just say you have it. So I have wondered, who was it that also had it? Kamala had it, and I just sometimes I wonder, like, is this a convenient time for you? All right, you all. Well, I think I'm gonna head off. What time is it? Oh, it's 10. I haven't got it. I am available. I don't think I have a mosquito bite. I don't think I had it. I think I had remember when the Omicron was going around? I think I had that, but it wasn't bad. All right, everybody. I'm going to get off here. Thank you so much for joining. That was fun. And I'll see you all next week. Oh, I hope it's not. No, it's definitely a mosquito bite. It's right there. I hope it's not monkeypox. Uh-oh. That would suck. All right. Thank you all. Have a really good weekend, and I'll see you later. Bye. Thank you, Glenn. Bye. Bye, you guys. No, it's not monkeypox. Don't say that. Bye, you all.